We started the walk from the path behind the house of Bruar and followed the signs for Falls of Bruar. Today the walk from the house of Bruar to the falls is a superb excursion. The lower bridge is fairly easily reached, while the steepness then increases on the two paths up to the upper bridge. The whole walk is about 1.5 miles long and involves a total climb of about 400 feet up to the upper bridge. The falls were probably formed sometime in the last 10,000 years, after the retreat of the glaciers at the end of the last ice age. The water slowly cut through the rock, which had been pushed up by the geological forces which formed the Scottish Highlands some 500 million years ago. The falls first became popular as a tourist attraction at the end of the 18th century. At that time, the Bruar water flowed through a treeless, barren landscape, and the falls was said to be a somewhat disappointing sight for those forced to make their way over the slippery rocks and steep banks to view them. William Gilpin, who visited the falls in 1776, thought them of little value. Robert Burns, although taken with the falls themselves, was unimpressed by the lack of vegetation. After his visit in 1787, he wrote the poem, The Humble Petition of Bruar Water to the Noble Duke of Atholl. It entreated John Murray, 4th Duke of Atholl, the owner of the land, to plant some trees and bushes around the falls. Almost 10 years later, after Burns's death in 1796, Murray began an ambitious scheme of planting that would eventually include 120,000 larch and Scotch pine. The Duke was of the opinion that the planting should be both pleasing to the eye and profitable. He was eventually to become known as Planter John, planting over 15 million trees throughout his estates during his lifetime. At the Falls of Bruar, he also laid out the path that is still in use today, constructed the two bridges as viewpoints over the falls, and built a large number of huts and shelters. The huts were disliked by some visitors, and eventually they fell into disrepair. Only the partial remains of one stone hut can still be seen.